Okay, hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is going to be the most basic HTML video you can ever find on the internet. We'll be discussing what are HTML tags, what is CSS, what is JavaScript, and we'll be also developing a very simple website using what we have learned. Now, bear in mind, this video is going to be very beginner friendly and it's going to be aimed towards people with almost no knowledge about HTML. So with that said, let's get going. Now, by the end of this video, you should be able to build very simple, plain, easy HTML websites. We'll go ahead and then make it more complex in the future videos, but for now let's just keep it simple. We'll start off with creating a new folder and then opening it in our text editor. In this case, I'm using VS Code as my text editor. You can go ahead and then choose whatever you want. I'm gonna name the folder as sample web and then create that. I'm gonna open that up in my text editor, and there you go. You have an empty folder which you have opened in your text editor. Now you just can get started with creating a new file. You can go with either default.html, or you can also go with index.html. Well, most people go with index.html in their projects, so I'm also gonna go ahead and create HTML with the name index. With that said, you now have an empty HTML file. Now, HTML works using something called tags. You specify a tag using the greater than and the less than sign, and then in between them you specify the name of the tag, and then that is your tag. In this case, I have created the HTML tag. Now you have to also close a tag, or else HTML would not read it. So how would you close a tag? You close it by just saying less than sign and then slash and then HTML and then close it. Now, if you're using some editor like Visual Studio Code or something like that, you can pretty much have a look at it auto-completing. But if you're using something like Notepad or some completely basic text editors like that, you will have to close it yourself, of course. Now, with that done, you have now created a HTML tag. Now, what is a HTML tag? It just specifies that whatever you specify in between these two open and close tags, all of that is basically just HTML code. So whatever you specify in between these two, they both are. So whatever you specify in between these two, it's basically HTML. With that said, let's go ahead and then get started with the body. The body tag is where you specify the actual content of your website. It contains the exact code which you want to be outputted and rendered as a HTML website. And here's where you specify whatever you want. Let's say hello. This is gonna basically just render hello in your website. That is body. Once you have the body created, you can go ahead with the next part, which is the head, which is the short form of header. Now, what does header do? It's basically anything other than the body tag. Now, let's say you want to specify a title for your website. Now, when I say title, I don't mean the actual title of the body of the website. I mean the actual text which is going to be displayed at the tab of the website, and you specify the title by a title tag, and then you say whatever you want in between the title tag, and that would be the text which would be displayed at the tab of the website web browser which you have opened. With that said, you can now go ahead and then create anything else you want, but for now this is about it. Let's just go ahead and then preview it in our web browser. Now if you want to preview your HTML website in your web browser, go ahead and then open your file manager, go to desktop, wherever you have saved this HTML file, go ahead, right click and open that using your web browser. And right away, if you have a look, you will see that you have pretty much done it right. The body right here is rendering hello, and thus you have hello here, and then the title also is rendering hello. Let me just change it to something else. And now if you have a look, it does not change because you need to go ahead and then reload it. Now if you have a look, you can see that this is the title right here, and you have therefore just changed the title, and this is the actual body. This specifies what you have in between the body tag. So with that said, we will just get started with building a very simple website so that you can go ahead and then have a real life application of how HTML would work. Okay, so getting started, we'll start with a very simple color scheme for our website. We'll just say best color scheme, and that would go ahead and then give you some nice color scheme which you would want. Okay, so once you have selected the desired color scheme which you would want, go ahead and then keep it as it is. Now if you want to have a better and then faster productivity, just go ahead and then copy all of these into your HTML file and then comment that out. Now once you have gone ahead and then typed out your color scheme of your website, go ahead and then comment that out. Now in HTML, you comment that out by saying less than sign, exclamatory mark, and then hyphen hyphen. Once you have done that, you have gone ahead and then commented your text. I would go ahead and then do the same here, and there you go. These two colors are going to be used extensively for my website. Now with that done, you can finally go ahead and then create a new HTML tag and then specify the body. Now I need the body color to be this. How do I specify that? Now there are three ways you can add colors. All the three ways are using CSS, and then we would go ahead and then talk about CSS in a more detailed way, but for now you can go ahead and then just say style, background, and then paste the color scheme which you have selected. With that done, if you go ahead, save your project and then have a look at your website, you can see that your website now has a nice background which you want to have. With that said, you now want to add a title. Let's go ahead and then add a head tag and then add a title tag, and then in this title tag I want the title of my website. I'm gonna go ahead and then just specify the name of this YouTube channel as my title and then reload it. And by the way, you probably know this, but in order to refresh your website, you go ahead and say F5 or Control R, or you click onto this reload button right here or whatever. With that said, you now have FadinGeek title right here, and yeah, it's pretty much looking good. we can now get started with the actual title of our body right here. Now you specify a title using h and then the number. You can say h1, h2, h3 or so on. In this case I'm gonna go ahead and say h1, and then I would go ahead and then specify the name of the body title of this website. I'm gonna say this is the title. Now I'm gonna go ahead and then save it and then reload it. You can see that we have a black text saying this is the title, and that's exactly what we want. And that is actually what exactly h1 tag does. H1 tag is basically this pre-built tag which you could use, go ahead and then create a fairly bad looking title. So we'll just go ahead and then style that up by saying style, and then in here we're gonna go ahead and then say color, and then I would specify the name of this color right here, which is azure. Now you can go ahead and then use hexa if you want. For white, you can go ahead and then specify the color white, or you can go ahead and then use the RGB format. It's completely up to you. In my case, because this is fairly simple, I'm gonna go ahead and then say azure as my color. So if you go ahead and then have a look at the website now, you can see that the title color has been changed to this white color. And now, by the way, this is not exactly white, it is almost white, but if you specify white right here, it's gonna go ahead and then completely change it to white. Now this again looks so bad, it does not look good. You need the title to be at the center right here, or maybe even if you want it to be at the left side, you don't want it to be like this. It doesn't look good. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go ahead and then say the text align to be center. Now this goes ahead and then aligns your text. In this case it's our title. It's gonna align the text at the center, and that is really what we want. Let's go ahead and then change the font of this. Now in order to go ahead and then change the font of whatever you have, you just say font family and then you specify what font you want. Let's say we'll go with whatever is suggested by VS Code right here. I'm gonna go with font awesome, and yeah, that looks bad. It was not a good idea. So let's go ahead and then change the font to something else. I'm gonna go ahead and then use this as my font. Now with that done, if you go ahead and then reload it, you can see that it is not yet so good looking, but it is at least better than what it was before. Now let's go ahead and then change the font size of this, because clearly we don't want it to be so small. We'll go ahead and then change the size of the font to something else. So you do that by specifying font size and then the size of your font. Now you do this in many ways. The first way of doing is pretty much using rem. You say 1 rem and that would be the actual default, or maybe a much smaller title size. And if you go ahead and then say 10, it's gonna be larger, and that's how rem works. It resizes your font size when compared to the default size of the font itself. Now with that said, I don't want this to be too large. I'm just gonna say this to be 5 rem, and that would be fairly good looking. Now with that said, I would now want to go ahead and then create a simple text right here, just to specify what this website is about. So to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and then say P. Now P for short is para, and then you can just say whatever you want in here. Now by default you would have a feature called lorem ipsum if you are using something like Visual Studio Code, or if you're using anything else. Well, this is basically just dummy text which is completely generated by a computer just for mimicking the usual text of anything you would specify. I'm gonna go ahead and then use that, and now reload it. If you have a look at this, you can see that again it does not look good. We will go ahead and then make it look good. For this, again, I would specify a style tag right here, and then I'm gonna specify the color of this text, and I need the color of this text to be something else. I want it to be this color right here. So I'm gonna go ahead, copy that, paste it, and then reload it, and then you can see that the color of this text right here is changed and it looks better than what it was before. Now of course again the font of this is horrible and I would want to go ahead and then change it, but I'm gonna do that later on in the future videos. And this is basically it. If you want to go ahead, and you can also text align this also to the center, and that would go ahead and then actually just align your text to the center, which is exactly what we want. And this is the basics of HTML. If you know HTML or you're pretty familiar with HTML, I mean, you know this, 100 times more than this. But this video is more focused towards people who are starting or getting started with actually coding using HTML. In the future videos, we'll go ahead and then focus on decorating this website right here, because clearly this website right here looks horrible. So we'll go ahead and then continue customizing this website, and then we'll also focus on adding logics using JavaScript and all of those stuff in the future videos. But for now, this is about it. This is the most basic video on HTML and how HTML works. In the future videos, we'll go ahead and then talk about styling this, adding more images, adding more fonts, changing the style of this horrible website, and then generally just making it look awesome. With that said, we have finally come to the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, do all of those stuff. It's free, and I will meet you in the next video. Goodbye.